Greetings.
Welcome.
It's good to see you again. Good to be here. Oh, I see a few new people. A few people I haven't seen in a while, so it's nice to welcome everyone.
Great to welcome you all. We'll probably have a few more joining us here.
Yeah. And my name is Cynthia Brix.
And I am William Keepin.
And we are the co-founders of Gender Equity and Reconciliation International.
And we're very grateful for all of you joining us today, and we're very enthused about the theme today.
Maybe if you would take a moment while we're waiting others to join, just put where you're calling in from. Where are you right now?
Type it in the chat.
Let's see. Will and I are in Barcelona, Spain right now. And we are at the Festival of Consciousness. So we've been experiencing high levels of consciousness. It's been quite lovely, and we're meeting a lot of nice people and great people as we go. You want to read where people are calling in from, Will?
Sure. So we have folks calling in from Seattle, Connecticut, Piedmont, California, Denver, Tavira, Portugal, Northern England, Cape Town, Galveston, Texas, Cornwall, UK, Mount Rainier, Washington, Cape Town again, Coopoo City in South Africa, and Cape Town. So those are some of the places that people are from. New Jersey.
We see people continuing to come in. So we're going to dive right in here and get started as people continue to come. Right now, I just invite you for a moment of silence and a little guided. Actually, it's not full silence, but a guided centering. But before we do that, I invite you to lean into your screen and try to see into each other's eyes a bit. So come forward and just choose someone on the screen to look at. Look at those lovely faces. See, we're not that far away. We're connected through the heart and the eyes here. So as you lean in and you find someone to connect with, then send them some good energy, some good juju, some love, however that is, compassion, because we never know what everyone is going through.
Never doubt the power of the eyes to be transmitters of the energies of the heart.
Yeah. And now coming back into your own space, holding that, and I invite you to close your eyes and come into your heart space. And as you do, just know that as you were sending that good energy, those prayers to someone, as you looked into the screen, into their eyes, that someone was looking at you too. So take a moment just to receive that blessing, those prayers, those good wishes for your well-being, all the way across wherever you are in the world. And take a moment to feel into your heart center, not only your spiritual heart, which is often noticed in the center of your chest, but also your human heart, that heart that beats nonstop. It's always going in the rhythm of your body, in the rhythm, the exhale and the inhale of the earth, of Gaia energy. And feel into that connection that you have within yourself. Notice how the rhythm of your own heart, you might even place your hand on your heart and see if you can feel your own heartbeat. Noticing how your heartbeat is in rhythm with the earth energy, which is in rhythm with the cosmos. And in between all of the earth energy and cosmos and your own heart is the energy of this community, of all our hearts beating together in rhythm with one another, no matter where we are on the planet. And as we enter into this time together, we're going to be offering, traditions, spiritual practices from different traditions and faiths. And even though those may be our individual rhythms of our own faith and spiritual practices, it's the weaving together of our beliefs, our knowings, what we trust most, that makes us one beautiful, connected community. There is no other. We are all one human body in constant rhythm with one another. And not letting go of that, but gently opening your eyes, coming back into this space. I'll hand it over to Desiree, our director of training, who's going to guide us in our candle lighting.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Hello, everyone. So staying in that heart-connected space in this community, we invite you to join us as we speak and offer our healing intentions as we do in all of our Geri works and programs. And I'd love to invite with gratitude the colleagues, the intern facilitators joining me to light these candles. So Mike, Yashina, Ignacio, Sarah, and Garrett if Ignacio is not here. So as we each take turns to speak the healing intentions, I will light the candles. Mike, I'm going to ask you to please get us started.
Thank you, Desiree. I light this candle for the healing between women and men.
Yashina.
Thank you, Mike. We light this candle for the healing between men and men.
We
Garrett.
light this candle for the healing between women and women.
Sarah.
We light this candle for the healing among all genders and all divisions among the human family.
And we light this candle for the healing of all beings and the earth. So we take a moment to connect with the light, and may it all be so. Thank you, everybody.
So it's a great joy to welcome you all today. And we're enthused that we are here for this panel on cultivating the inner work of the heart for outer service in the world. And shortly, Cynthia will introduce the 6 guests who are joining us. Across the spiritual traditions, there's this recognition that when we truly serve others, we need to be in alignment with the divine in some form. We have teachings about this in every religion. In the Psalms, for example, unless the Lord builds the house, all the work is in vain. In the Bhagavad Gita, every act of selfless service, the Brahman is present, the supreme divine is present, because when we act truly in service to others, the infinite is working through us. And this is key to this work that we do in gender equity and reconciliation and interspirituality. So today we're going to hear from various people across the different spiritual traditions and faiths about how your faith serves and informs your work. And when we work interspiritually, then there's a large, as Jesus said, when 2 or more are gathered, I am there. And we could say when 2 or more traditions are gathered, the cosmic Christ, the cosmic Buddha, the cosmic Krishna, the cosmic Divine Mother is there. So without further ado, Cynthia will introduce our panelists.
I will indeed. And maybe we could bring them up one at a time. So Let's see who's first. Michele Breene is here with us. Welcome, Michele. And we'll have Annette Williams. Oh, we have John Guy here next. Okay. Welcome, John. Annette Williams.
Welcome, Annette.
Hugo Sanchez.
Bienvenido, Hugo.
Antonia Porter.
Welcome, Antonia. Sikhander Coopoo.
And welcome, Sikhander. We are glad you are all here. It's such a joy to welcome you. Just for our audience out there watching, all of you in community, all of these people are facilitators of our gender equity and reconciliation work. Several of them are also trainers. We are not going to introduce them one by one. You're going to learn about who they are through what they say. So their bios are their life, and that's what they're going on, their practice. That's what they're going to share here. I just want to add a little bit to what Will's saying as we get started here, to say in the GERI work, which is the acronym for Gender Equity and Reconciliation International, one of the key teachings is the importance of having some kind of contemplative practice that centers us on a daily basis, and that's widely known. I mean, wide and broad in the concept of what those practices are or could be. Which we'll hear some of that today. Very, very important in our work. So I'm going to encourage our guests here to speak a little bit about how that informs you as facilitators and trainers in the GERI work as we share more deeply. And in a world where we are needing more centering, more unity, more places that we are unified and not feeling like the other or different, we need to come into those places of silence first before we react. Actually, not reacting, but responding to what is happening in the world. So, without further ado now, I'd like to just invite each of you to share briefly, maybe a minute and a half each, and Garrett will ring the bell if you start going further than that. So if you hear the bell, then start wrapping it up. But briefly share with us about your tradition, if you have a spiritual or a religious tradition, and also what your spiritual path is, and what your practice is, what your daily practice is, what centers you, what helps you wake up in the morning and go out into the world. And so let's start. Who would like to start? Anyone want to jump in first? Maybe.
Go.
Okay, Michele. That's great. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's lovely to see all your faces. And I just have to say, I love GERI because it is the one place in my life where I feel the unity across the world and the community of love that we treasure. So thank you for holding this, and it's a wonderful opportunity. So I wasn't anything, I guess I wasn't introduced into any religion when I was born. My dad had actually been raised in an orphanage in India, a Catholic orphanage, and my mum was raised by foster parents. They didn't have a Bible in the house. We didn't talk about God, but I did have religious studies at school. And I always knew about Jesus and about God. And obviously it was an English school. It was I was taught the Christian faith at that time. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s, actually, and just newly married, that I started to explore a little bit more about those texts that I had read in scripture in school. And my kids were growing up, and I wanted to read them some of the stories from scripture. And so I began to read. And as I read about the life and teachings of Jesus, I became closer and closer to who he is, to who Jesus was, and to understanding him. And as I started going to church to explore things, more deeply, I was introduced to spiritual disciplines and would sometimes take texts and do a kind of just a full immersion in a particular text, like "Blessed are the peacemakers," and I would just sit with that text and just enjoy time with God and just listening. But as the tradition I was in was evangelical, we had a lot of liturgy, worship. A lot of that was wonderful. But as I grew up and started to own my own faith, it became less disciplined like that, just less of a formality, and much more of a kind of an authentic relationship with Christ, and seeing the ways in which He was working in me and in others around me drew me closer and closer. And Tim and I started praying together, and especially when things were when we were struggling with being parents, new parents. And then we started doing prayer walks together. Sometimes I would walk alone. I like to move, so it's very hard for me to just sit still and pray quietly. So I started to do that each day and found that working with my emotions in movement made a big difference. And gradually I got to spend more time in centering prayer, which I learned about. Father Thomas Keating taught me everything I know about centering prayer, and that became more of my daily practice. That just the ability to sit with the inner stillness and just listening and calming my fix-it brain, trying to solve everything, and just surrender to that silence and finding God in that place. Thank you.
Thank you, Michele. That's beautiful.
That's beautiful, Michele. Thank you.
Why don't we move on to John? Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, John.
My name is John, and I'm going to start here instead of past. I'm a Buddhist practitioner, and so my daily practices are rooted in study in terms of texts. Like Michele was saying, I will often have a whole bunch of texts on my little shrine that I have, and I'll wander around the house making breakfast and stuff, and then I'll pick something up, pick one of my books up, and I'll often go back and just read something, find something, a page that sticks out to me, and remember that relationship with the text and remember what the depth of meaning of that is to me. And by way of practice, I thought I'd speak about my daily practices as really being rooted in remembering a number of things, remembering that I'm made up of compassion and wisdom at my essence, remembering that all of us are one humanity, that we're all seeking to avoid suffering and pain and all seeking happiness. And all this stuff is stuff that has come to me through my study and practice of Buddhism. And at the same time, I'm also very rooted in what I like to think of as the world's wisdom traditions, as we all are here in this practice of gender equity and reconciliation, being open to everyone's practice. And so for me, one of the other key pieces is really remembering that my body and nature are the same thing. And so I also have a yoga practice. I also spend time in nature. And so silence, spending time in silence with the body, which is nature, or in nature, which is the body, is always remembering what I am at essence. And then in terms of practice, I'm also trying to remember that every person and every situation is a Buddha, is a teacher for me. This experience with you all here now. And particularly this connection, if any of you have ever done that centering prayer or Buddhist meditation, mindfulness meditation, there's often this connection with the breath. In yoga, there's this connection with the breath. And so for me, remembering and breath are closely tied in the sense of there's a practice in Buddhism that often kicks in for me in the gender equity work of Tonglen, which is often translated as sending and receiving. Remembering that I am made of compassion and wisdom, that I can open to any suffering that others are expressing. And I can breathe that in and send it back out as love, compassion. Or lately, my favorite thing to send out has been, if you know, hugging your children or hugging your beloved or hugging a good friend, that feeling of that hug, that's what I've liked to send out when I'm in the, whether it's in the gender reconciliation workshop and I'm listening to somebody share their experience that's challenging, or whether it's in my psychotherapy practice and I'm listening to a client share something difficult. I'm trying to send this feeling of like, I've been calling it "aw buddy" practice, like "aw buddy." That sounds so painful. So sending and receiving is a big practice for me. But I think I'll tie up by just saying that for me, the core practice is remembering my center, remembering this oneness.
Thank you, John. Beautiful.
Thank you, John. That links to the core practice in Sufism of remembrance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to interject before we move on to the next person that Sylvia is doing interpretation in Spanish. So hopefully, if you're a Spanish speaker, you'll find her. And then Garrett is on our tech today. So just appreciation for our two trainers who are supporting in that way.
Absolutely.
So Annette, would you be open to going next?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I love this joining of spirit and hearts. So, my spiritual path is deeply connected to love of nature and to ancestor reverence, and to a belief that we are here to bring forward the best of our ancestral inheritance. And as such, I found resonance with Ifa. That's the African traditional religion of the West African Yoruba that was brought to the diaspora with the transatlantic slave trade. So within Ifa, there is a deep respect for spirit, the spirit that resides within all beings, flora and fauna, spirit that resides within unseen dimensions that intersect our own, and spirit as energy manifest in nature. These energies, as manifestations of nature, are divine sparks emanating from source or all that is. And within Ifa, there are several energies called Orisha with which one works. But there is usually a certain Orisha with which one is particularly aligned. And the identity of that Orisha is confirmed through divination, and a relationship is established. And though initiation is not necessary, if a person initiates, this Orisha is said to crown a person's head. So in essence, the Orisha resides within, offering direct guidance, support, and protection in a mutual exchange of spiritual energy called Ashe. I am initiated to the Orisha Oshun, who is associated with sweet waters such as lakes, streams, and rivers, and associated with love. He's a defender of women and children, who brings all blessings, the blessings of all good things, and who made clear to arrogant male Orisha at the beginning of creation that nothing is accomplished without the ashe of women. So this underscores the importance of balance. So in my daily practice, it's really a practice of gratitude, a practice of gratitude to the ancestors and to all the energies that help guide my earth walk. I love taking walks in nature. I love the beauty of altar spaces. I have an ancestor altar, and I have a few small altars around, and I just tending the altars brings me a lot of joy and a lot of peace. It's a meditation. It's a meditation to do that, and to get up in the morning and to look at my ancestor altars, to see the pictures, and just to express gratitude for what they have gone through in their lives, that I'm sitting here now with you. So, thank you.
Thank you, Annette.
That's beautiful, Annette. Thank you so much.
You can see how rich the conversation is going to be after we get through the initial, because we're going to open it up a bit more.
I'm resisting the temptation, but I'll just mention that the related Yoruba concept of ejiwapo, I think, meaning sort of balanced, inherent two-ness, becoming oneness, is a very profound principle. And it's also related to our gender equity and reconciliation work. So next,
Annette may speak to later, who knows?
we'd like to invite Sikhander to please share.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I greet you in peace. Wow, I must say it's such an honor to be here today with this amazing lineup that you have here. I'm a human rights defender based in South Africa, and I happen to carry more than one identity. I was born Muslim, gay, and happen also to be male, and into a very specific family. And Imam whispered the azan into my ear before I even understood what it was or what it meant. A few years ago, I went through a difficult period and one that I'm honestly still finding my way out of. It was then that I found the Geri program and the art of living. Each became like a sort of building block that rested on my Islamic foundation. I don't go to mosque anymore, nor do I keep the 5 daily prayers. Yet I often find myself in divine prayer for help and a lot in terms of gratitude. I don't have a spiritual teacher or a Islamic teacher that taught me stuff. My teacher was my mother. And she always taught us that with dua, which is prayer, it walks hand in hand with action. And I observe Ramadan and I hold a daily spiritual practice that draws on all of this. So every morning I do pranayama, which is the gentle breathing that calms the body. With Bastrika, which is a stronger breath that energizes the body. Then there's also Sudarshan Kriya, which is a rhythmic breathing that clears the mind, and meditation every day. Then there's also weekly acts of service or seva, which is interlinked with that. And every few months, as John also mentioned, I must do my 4 days of silence. I must go into silence. And through it all, I found that what makes my soul sparkle is spending time in nature and animals, with animals, as well as being in service of others. Thank you.
Beautiful, Sikhander. Thank you.
Thank you, Sikhander. Beautiful.
Antonia, please.
Hi, everyone. And I'm just feeling very grateful for this community as I sit here. I was raised as a Quaker, which is a form of kind of silent Christianity. And I enjoyed that in a kind of gentle way. Somewhere in my late teens, I began to feel it wasn't answering all the questions I had, and I began to get very interested in Buddhism, in Hinduism. I went to university to study that really, and kind of academically plunged in. And then in my 20s and 30s, I guess I was mainly practicing Vipassana meditation, but the Ajahn, a kind of a type taught by Ajahn Chah, which is a little bit less rigid than some of the ones you might have heard about. And about, I would say, quite interestingly and unexpectedly for me, about 7 years ago, a little bit out of nowhere, I met 2 different teachers from completely different traditions in the same year. And although, but I couldn't really question their path for me because it felt very right. And although they're different, they were basically both taking me deep into nature, into the body, into the earth, into my heart, and a very different way of being than I had been practicing or used to, but much more, I guess, devotional and surrendering to the sacred mystery, or to the feminine, to the earth. And so a kind of more feminine path that I'm still on, as well as holding the others. And in terms of my daily practice, there is a kind of formal part and an informal part. And the formal The formal part is that I do like to sit for a while each day, not necessarily in silence, but in meditation, either the just being aware what's happening now in my body, or connecting my womb, my body with the earth, and kind of surrendering to guidance from her, and prayer. And I would say interwoven informally in my day is just is a lot of, when I can, nature and walking, and again asking the ocean for guidance, a kind of constant or very frequent surrendering and living in a place of prayer and receptivity, or trying to. So that's me.
Beautiful,
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. And lastly, we invite Hugo Sanchez. Please, Hugo.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. What a gift, this gathering, to be gathered here in this way. And not only across distance, but across all of our traditions, and having this shared intention. So it is very special for me as a Venezuelan man to be here as part of the panel, and together working on this relationship between what the inner transformation, the inner work is, and how that impacts the outer change, right? So if you ask me what tradition I belong to, and thank you, Cynthia, for asking me that question before this, because I myself had a pause, and I said, okay, that's gonna be a long answer. It's gonna be a long answer,
You have
and
about
here
a
it goes.
minute and a half.
But shorter than a minute and a half, or whatever is left. So I was raised Catholic, right? And grew up Venezuela. Venezuela was 95% Catholic when I was there. And this was Catholic tradition by the book: go to church, the candles, the rosaries, the holidays, the sense of that sacredness. That is something that we go towards and look for. And that is still in me as a big influence on my daily practice, in ritual and stillness. The smell of incense is very special to me. But as a yoga practitioner of over 20 years too, yoga really did crack something open for me. It changed my relationship with the divine completely. It pulled me into Buddhist philosophy, into the Vedic traditions, and into sitting with questions that were unresolved, that was different on the Catholic upbringing of, it's it black or white. There was a lot of gray in this other part, and the unresolved, and understanding that is something more. So that has impacted me and even beyond the Buddhist or Vedic that came to me through yoga. There is something older. Okay, is this indigenous and African roots of Venezuelan culture, including the Yoruba, as Annette. The Yoruba influence it's strong, and it runs through my ancestry, and a connection to the land and the ancestor. One of my favorite ways of praying is go barefoot, walk on the grass, walk on the earth, and that is something that, as I'm saying, and I get the goosebumps and that connection of healing and alignment. And listen to those voices inside. Sometimes it's my voice, sometimes it's an ancestor, sometimes it's a powerful intuition, or a message that comes handy in the practice. But definitely those voices are present there. As many of you know, Thich Nhat Hanh's one of my favorite teachers, and one of his quotes in Living Buddha, Living Christ, he was called upon, watch out, you mixing things, you're making a fruit salad of religion, talking about Buddhism and Christianity. And not that I am making a smoothie of all the religions and making my own, but honoring and respecting every of those fruits, okay, and acknowledging and the nurturing that can come from a mango, a pineapple, or a banana, okay, on its own right of perfection. So tasting each fruit, and I'm paraphrasing Thich Nhat Hanh, that's something that feels so deeply true to me, and also make me feel that I wasn't going crazy. So my daily practice is simple. Morning sitting, breathing, breath awareness, mantra, prayer, movement. It's absolutely a must for me. The movement, move my body, and keep my energy clean and aligned. Happy to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugo. That's beautiful. And I noted that Mother Earth, Gaia, was in every one of your practices, which just feel like that's a prayer, as we speak about the earth energy, the land, this planet that is our home, that we're a part of. It's so beautiful to hear that prayer. I also want to, before we dive into our conversation, I want to just acknowledge that not all traditions are represented here. Jewish tradition, we have people in this community that is their tradition. Hinduism, that is their tradition. We did invite some people who couldn't be here this time, but we'll continue the conversation for another session to get more of you up here. We want to ask the question?
Sure. So we're just going to invite whoever wants to respond to this question and invite a dialogue among you. How does your faith or spiritual practice inform and inspire and guide your service work in the world? And we sort of would like to invite a bit of a dialogue. So if anyone speaks for longer than a minute, we'll sort of gently intervene and invite someone else to speak. And we'll just address this question for a few minutes. And
then, we'll hopefully have time to move into a little bit around some of the challenges around that. So maybe just a few of you can speak to that, and we'll move into the second question. If something's already been said, maybe say something different. So anyone feel moved to speak to that for a minute?
Okay, I'll jump in. A lot of it is, I guess there are three things. One is holding to a faith that there is purpose, right? That there's purpose to my existence, that there's purpose to this crazy world. holding that as a really deep faith. And then trusting in guidance. A lot of it is trusting in guidance and intuition, either through dreams, synchronicities, from sitting in meditation, trusting what comes through as Hugo was speaking to, the guidance of the ancestors or Risha, your whatever comes through. And I do sit in meditation and do yoga. I'm a bit of a fruit salad myself, but I really focus on the Ipa tradition. But all of that, the faith of my faith in purpose. I think that's really how my faith informs my service work in the world. And that everything that I do, I pray that it is of service and that it is of benefit, and that it does move our evolution along the spiral in a positive way. That's as vague as I can get.
That's really essential for me too, and I really appreciate you saying that. Beautiful. Yeah, Antonia, please.
Thank you. When I thought about this question, some surprising things also came to mind. Well, I thought of something very concrete, actually, where my practice helps me in a very direct way in whether facilitating or also I'm a crisis counselor sometimes, and I've realized that the practice for me of going all the time spent kind of going down and in and surrendering and into the earth has almost made me more solid. Like I feel like I can sit more deeply and connect to my own heart and my own presence more strongly as a result. So I feel more useful basically as a result in spaces and places. What I would also say that surprised me as I really thought about the question, I thought there's also something very unexpected that I don't know yet, which is that as I deepen in that part of my practice, essentially I'm becoming more and more connected to my own aliveness, which I'm realizing is also leading me to honor myself in whatever I do. So service is broader, if that makes sense, and more creative, and I don't always know what that will unfold to be. So for me, it's a place of trusting and not knowing, and opening to the unexpected. And lastly, I've just realized in very recent years how Quakerism, even though I didn't necessarily appreciate it growing up, I'm realizing that on a very subtle level, the teachings of around social justice and equality, I didn't know it at all at a conscious level, but I feel them holding me. So I'm grateful, even if I don't feel them necessarily mystically all the time. So yeah, thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Hugo.
Yeah, Hugo,
Thank
please.
you, Antonia.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Antonia, for your shares. Well, thank everyone for your sharing. But Antonia sparked a thought in me, and it's and part of what you said, Cynthia, also about uh, instead of reacting, having that nanosecond of choosing a response. And that, as a Jerry facilitator, when we are in a workshop, that nanosecond is key. It's absolutely important to have some sort of grounding, and that comes for a daily practice. It doesn't come from uh, take a pill before the workshop one time and that's it. It comes for consistency through the practice, and then we can stand as a Jerry facilitators holding that space for other people when things get difficult in a workshop. We are, when we're doing a workshop, men are asked to look at the pain and the harm that patriarchy has done to women and to other men and to myself, to ourselves, but also the women and everybody, all genders and gender identities are also asked to look at that pain and that grief. And then when for me as a facilitator, it's easier to be able to take a breath, to tap into my daily practice, my pranayama breathing, and I said, okay, this is what's happening. From a place of equanimity, become the observer and hold the space and the safety. And many of you know that I'm big on safety for the group. That then we are not reacting to something or dragged emotionally into something that triggers. It is difficult as a facilitator sometimes to just to close my comment. Uh, if some participant is telling a story that is what I have done previously and would trigger me, and then I am next to share, but I'm also a facilitator. Woo! I better have some practice, some spiritual practice, something practice that will hold me together, because if not, I'm gonna be dragging to that river of I'm gone from the team, and now I need to be regulated. And that's why we have a big group of facilitators, never one person, right? Two and two, or sometimes more, and the support, etc. But super important for that nanosecond of choice and select.
That's beautiful,
That's
Hugo.
so beautiful.
And I want to say just what you said around the group of facilitators. It's our community. It's kind of the sangha that helps me stay centered even in the challenges, right? As well as the practice.
And so the collective spiritual wisdom will move through the group and through the team, facilitation team. But you've already anticipated our second question, which is basically when things get challenging, what do you draw on? spiritually and from your practice to help you stay centered and help respond from a place of skill and compassion to a challenging situation, as opposed to being in reaction, and perhaps especially in the context of some of your work with Geri. So if any of you have any specific examples or moments that you might share.
You know what? I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
That we're a fractal, thank goodness we're a loving community doing intentional work with practice. And we're a fractal of what's happening in the world. So, I can do it really well in the Geri work often, sometimes challenging, and then I could walk out on the street or look at the news and react pretty quickly. So how does that play out in your lives and in the Geri work, as Phil was saying?
And just so for the participants here, everyone, after this question, we're going to have small groups. So each of you will have a chance to share in small groups with one another.
Each of the guests here will be in one guest in each of your small groups, so you can continue with them as well. So the circle's open. If you haven't spoken, we invite you to dive in.
I think I'd like to say something. Everything that's been said here, key for facilitating in gender equity. I think what I might add is the word that's coming to mind is space. In my training, I remembered we did this space awareness practice, compassion space awareness practice. But oftentimes when I'm facilitating, I'll remember to look outside of the window, out through a window or through the door, and see the sky, see the earth. Remember that all that's transpiring, regardless of how challenging the moment may be or how joyful the moment may be, is being held by the larger space, the universe, like all of it. And that this particular moment is not as, I suppose you could say it's kind of, it helps to that equanimity that Hugo was talking about, and to bring the equanimity, but through a sense of spaciousness and less claustrophobic in any given moment, to just remember the totality, the space around us.
Thank you, John.
That's beautiful. Any other responses? Yeah, Michele.
I was just going to say, I really resonate with the point Hugo made, which is, you can't just take a pill in the moment when things come up. And, I definitely feel very different, when my tank is empty. I know I'm more fearful. I'm easily triggered. I just feel more distant from God. And I can lean on my own resources in that space and start to try and be productive. But that's not fruitful. It doesn't bring fruitfulness. So it's really important to me in my practice, my daily practice, that I serve the world from that tank, knowing that it's full. And that gives me confidence that I'm in step with the spirit. Like I feel like I'm in step with the universe, the unity of us together dealing with this division. I feel much more connected, and I think I can't feel fully present unless I'm connected in the first place. Connection is necessary for presence, for full presence, for heart, mind, and spirit presence. And so just taking that knowledge into my work, I know that through that filling of my tank daily, I had this image of a pitcher of water just pouring into the bowl, and it gets empty, it leaks. But as long as the pitcher continues to pour into my bowl, then it can overflow and spill into other people. And that life-giving, living water is then able to flow out from me more effectively. And I can lean into, for me, the fruit of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, connecting with my spirit, and receive the gifts that He gives me in that moment, she gives me in that moment. And so then I feel my heart opening, expanding, and a genuine compassion and quietness within. And I can start to see people with the eyes of God, and the eyes of God that have healed me. I can use those same eyes to pour grace on others. Yeah, thank you.
Great. That's wonderful, Michele. Thank you.
Beautiful. And Sikhander, we wondered if you'd like to maybe share your perspective a bit?
Have the last
Before we
word
move into
before we move into small groups, yeah.
Yes.
Please.
I work in the human rights sector also, and I'm often standing close to conflict, grief, and injustice. And I must say, these days that I feel overwhelmed and genuinely hurt by what I witness. And naturally, these experiences also stir emotions, inside a person. There's sadness, anger, frustration. But instead of just pushing those feelings away, my practice has actually taught me to acknowledge them and to gently let them in and settle. And it's from that place of stillness that I often find greater clarity, patience, and compassion. And my spiritual practice, it doesn't shield me from, the pain or the injustice, but somehow it changes how I carry it and how it lands on me. It helps me to remain open without being overwhelmed by everything and also without losing myself. I'm constantly reminded that you can respond from a position of love, and responding from a position of love is not something that's passive, it's something active, and it requires courage and discipline. And I'm reminded of at the Hollow Movement, when I saw one of the clips, our Ubuntu, our humanity was never cancelled. And as our dear Dr. Lucille May said, our humanity is our birthright. Thank you.
So true.
Sikhander.
And that's also what is true spiritually. As Father Thomas Keating, who was mentioned here, who convened religious leaders for 34 years from all the different faiths. And he said, when we come together in a shared quest for an absolute from across all the traditions, we enter a space that transcends all the religions, and we meet as one, which is that end goal of all the religions. So that's very beautiful what you're speaking to there.
I'll just add before we move into the small groups that I know myself and several of you, if not all of us, are activists at heart. That's why we're doing the work we do. And for me personally, my practice helps me make the right decisions, not only respond and not react, but also know when it's my turn to, or my space to show up in the world in a very active way. And the world calls us out there to be there. So whether that's on the streets or doing the geri work or whatever. So activism or spiritual activism. And I just want to name that because I know that's part of it. And it can be a struggle for some of us to know when we're on the cushion and when we're out in the world, when we speak, when we stay silent, these sorts of things. So as we move into our small groups, bring your what you're on your heart. We'll have about 15 minutes together, and bring what's on your heart and maybe any questions you have for the presenters. They will be facilitating the groups. So. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are going to take a few moments to make some announcements. Then our program ends at 75 minutes. However, as we often do, we leave the last, after we close at quarter after, depending on where you are, or a quarter till if you're in India. We will keep our room open and in conversation for 15 more minutes to hear the speakers and hear from you. Hear some more from you in plenary.
Reflections,
Yeah.
questions,
So,
comments.
Desiree, can you share with us the inspiring, the amazing, the brilliant, the fantastic programs that are coming up for you?
No self-promotion here, folks.
No, because we need it. We need it, all of us.
Absolutely. And Cynthia's not exaggerating. We are busy. The work is growing, and we ask that you continue to also hold with us the manifesting of that and more. So our next Saturday circle for you to please diarize will be on August the 8th, So please keep a lookout on the social media platforms for the details of that. And our upcoming programs, Garrett will put the links in the chat. So we have an online course starting, so it's over 7 weeks. We're starting on July 22nd, and over 7 weeks that runs until the 2nd of September. That will be Wednesdays. So speaking for South African time, it will be 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. in our time. If you follow the link, you will get the different time zones for that. And exciting news, we are starting another immersion and professional facilitator training in Portugal, in Tavira. That will be from November 8th until the 13th. So please do keep a lookout out for that, and please share that with anybody else interested. In Kenya at Daystar University, there will be a workshop on August 25th to the 28th. And these are wonderful opportunities where our intern facilitators with our certified facilitators and trainers and community get together to offer these. We will have a workshop for peacemakers in Tavira, Portugal, September 21 to 23rd. And then crossing over the ocean, Nevada City in California, October 16th to the 18th. So please do keep an eye out on the socials to get all of those details, and maybe copy those links that Garrett posted in the chat for you to get to a little bit later. And then also just a big thank you to Sylvia for her interpretation. She's been in the background. And also Garrett, as always, for your brilliance in tech and keeping us moving and going and keeping us on time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Desiree.
Thank you, Des. And those upcoming programs are listed in the chat. So now we just want to open a space for any reflections from anyone, questions for the presenters, or just comments or reflections from anyone in the participants, please.
Yeah, Mike,
Michael?
go
Yeah.
ahead.
Hi. Hello, everybody. What a
Hi, Mike.
wonderful session today. I just wanted to share something that I shared in the small group that you prompted, Cynthia, as is often the case. You mentioned Jewish tradition, and I wanted to share that there is an actual rabbinical instruction. It's really an obligation, not just a tradition in Judaism, called Tikkun Olam. And that roughly translates to the world is broken. It is everyone's individual obligation to heal it. And I have actually felt from the first day I walked into a Geri workshop that Geri was deeply centered in exactly that tradition. And so when I listened to everybody today talking about all these different ways of approaching this and all these different traditions, I felt very much connected and at home and seen and heard in everybody's different things. They're all, I think, all interpretations of one fundamental human need, impulse, and desire. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation.
Beautiful, Mike. Thank you.
That is very beautiful.
It's
Mike.
what
Thank
keeps
you.
us going in this work. You've just named it beautifully. Anyone else?
Can I speak?
Yes,
Leslie,
please, Leslie.
Yeah. What challenges me is disconnection of love between all human beings. That is the challenge for me, because I worked in India for untouchability and against untouchability practices. Even though India has a mechanism for different mechanisms for removing it, and it has been removed by constitution, and still around 25 cases per day recorded as per National Crime Records Bureau are there. And in which different castes, love marriage, and the other caste person is being killed for marrying. And so that's the problem. That's the challenge that India, that the world, in the world is facing.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie. And Leslie works with the Dalits, or the untouchable peoples in particular in India, who are not even on the lowest rung of the caste system.
Yeah.
So thank you for your work, Leslie.
Okay, I'll share. I was in room 10, and
Wonderful, thank you.
what I spoke about was the practice of observation. Sometimes we don't observe enough. We talk too much. There's too much of noise in the world. And I think when you observe more, then you notice your own patterns, and the patterns of other people around you, so that you can transform yourself mostly. And I think that transformation is very important to be a better person, to be a better human being. And then in that way, you serve better. I was also with somebody else in the room. I don't know if she wants to go next. Yeah. And that's my sharing about, I also belong to the Interfaith in Cape Town.
Oh, beautiful.
And Cape Town Interfaith. So I think it's important to see the threads of humanity in all the various religions, and know that we are, as in Hinduism, they say Vasudeva Kutumbakam, we are one family on this earth. Thank you.
We are indeed.
Thank you, Sharita.
So I have a question about, I'm sure those of you who are on the call have had this experience, but there's some piece of service that actually throws out an invitation to you, and you don't know quite how to respond to it. What I'm speaking of for myself was lately I've been getting more involved in Mankind Project in terms of suicide prevention, which I got into when I was chair. And men are really good at killing things, and they're good at killing themselves. And but to prevent that means that they actually have an opportunity to transform, and I'm sure they can transform after death some way, but it's useful to get them to look at why do they want to make that permanent decision. So I've been called into some very difficult conversations lately with several men, and it seems to I connect with it. So it's like I'm accepting the invitation. So I'm just curious how people respond to an invitation for service, because that's how you get into it, right? Something happens, you get hooked, and there you go.
That's beautiful, Julian, and bless you for doing that work. I think we are called into levels of service according to our capacity. And you've been working with men's work for 35 years. You've done a lot of this work in the past, and now you're being called again to a particular level. These men who are contemplating suicide are correct that something needs to die and that they need a radical transformation. And I just know from all the work you've done in the past, I trust that you are skillfully intervening, helping to guide these men who are in a real crisis and who are also needing, for certain aspects of their lived experience, to die and needing a transformation so that they can hopefully continue to live, but in a new way, and serve. So, but I think that it's almost like God knows what we can handle more than we do. And when you're called in like that, especially if you weren't seeking it, then we have to respond as best we can and invite the divine to work through us, because it was the divine who asked us to do it. So it's kind of like, okay, I'll show up, but this work has to be done by you, the divine, through me. So bless you in that service.
It's beautiful.
There's a thing about God doesn't call those that are equipped; He equips those that are called.
There you go.
Right.
That you said it much more eloquently than I did.
I see that Lynn has written, she says, I just wish to share. I do have the need for some silence, so not speaking aloud today, but just writing here. Besides having grown up kind of interfaith, One of the reasons perhaps I reconnected with prayer had to do with my social justice practice. I have been a mother from very early in life, and I think it was a moment in time where the mother in me in desperation said, okay, if prayer works, I will try that too. And these children were from across faith traditions. So just as we learn different modalities to support as many people as we can, it was a desperate mother in me saying, okay, if prayer works, I will try that too for my children around the world. That is really beautiful. I saw Antonia's message. That's Lynn, thank you. Thank you for your silence, and thank you for holding the silence in this group today.
Absolutely.
There may be some others holding that silent space as well. We need more silence, and I personally need that silence on a daily level, even a few minutes, and few minutes throughout the day, to come back into myself and let my intuition, let my wisdom self guide me through this incredibly beautiful, wild, and yet suffering world.
And just want to note, as Sarah Florney pointed out in the chat, that there's a very good podcast with Julian on the Mankind Project about suicide that you can Google to find that.
Maybe Garrett, I don't know if you can pull that up quickly or not. Yeah. So what time is it here? What are we at? It's probably about time. And 1 minute to go.
7:29. Any
Yeah.
final reflections or comments?
Mary.
I just wanted to thank you, all of you who are present. It is such a pleasure to be in this community, and to be in a community that, as Mark said, takes responsibility for what is in present, and recognizes that the power lays in healing ourselves. And so my soul was just hungry to hear you today. So thank you so much.
That's
you,
beautiful, Mary. Thank you for joining us, and thank all of you for joining us. I have a deep conviction that is this kind of work, which is out there and here in many different forms, that is our great hope for humanity, is to serve from a deep connection to the divine, that pretty much nothing else is going to work. And the divine has tricks up its sleeve of which political and worldly power have no knowledge. And never forget that, as Blaise Pascal said, the heart has reasons of which reason has no knowledge. The heart has powers of which worldly and economic power have no knowledge. And if there was ever a time to draw on that, let us draw on it now, the heart being the center and central organ of spiritual perception and insight. So thank you.
And I have noticed throughout this time that you and I have been saying beautiful a lot, because I think it is beautiful. I think all of you are so beautiful. You may have noticed that we keep saying beautiful. That's not an accident, I'm sure. I would like to invite all you beautiful people, if you're willing to write in the chat a word that you're leaving with inspiration. And look there. Desiree's putting our candles, which have been burning throughout our session, that are holding our light, holding the love, holding that connection with each of us. Yeah, wonderful. You want to read some of those, Will?
Sure. So we have, you are all beautifuls.
Yes.
Wonderful session. Beauty, conviction, peace, faith, presence, connection, affirmation, feeling love.
Feel it. Feel this love.
Filled with appreciation, gratitude, heartful, trust, compassion, love, and more love. Enchanting.
These are not just words.
Feeling love.
These are prayers. These are intentions that each of us are carrying in our hearts that have just gone out into the cosmos, around this world, connecting us all heart to heart. So carry that forward. Until we meet again, dear
Deeply
friends.
connected in love. These prayers are weaving the internet of the heart of this community. And thank you all for being part of this today.
Thank you to our
Blessings
guest
be with you.
speakers. Thank you for your wisdom, for your time,
Your service.
your service.
You are an inspiration to all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye. You can
Bye-bye.
unmute. Say goodbye.
Unmute and
Bye.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Yes.
Muito obrigado.
Gracias.